Good morning. Today we are going to be focusing on Coriolanus by William Shakespeare, Act 2, Scene 1 and 2. So the first scene of Act 2, it acts as a link between the battlefield and, of course, the Roman power struggle. And what happens in the scene is that we have Menenius, and he is with the two tribunes, Sicinius and Brutus, who we know are Coriolanus's biggest enemies. And Menenius starts off by saying, "The augurer tells me we shall have news tonight." The augurer being, of course, the fortune teller, good or bad, not according to the prayers of the people, for they love not marshes. And so we know that this is referring to the plebeians, and they have very mixed emotions about Coriolanus, probably more negative than positive. And the reason why they are this negative is, of course, because of his arrogance and the way he despises the common people. Sicinius says, "Nature teaches beasts to know their friends." And so we have a very strong animal imagery, because that's the implication here. Nature, and nature means that the characteristics are inherent. Nature teaches beasts to know their friends. So animals know who are the enemies, animals know who are their allies, and that has been over time through experiences. And so that applies to the plebs as well. They know that the pats are not their friends. They know that Caius Marcius, because of his past actions, is definitely not their friend. Menenius carries on and says, "Pray you, who does the wolf love?" And the wolf here represents the plebs. Sicinius says, "The lamb." So the wolf is very strong imagery, animal imagery, because we think of the wolf as the predator. We think of the wolf always going on the attack, and the wolf loves the lamb, and the lamb is Coriolanus. Yes, to devour him as the hungry plebeians would the noble Marcius. So given the opportunity, they could possibly cause harm to him. And Brutus doesn't see Coriolanus as a lamb. He says he's a lamb indeed, that bars like a bear. He sounds like a bear. So there's nothing harmless about him. That's the implication. He's a bear indeed that lives like a lamb. You two are old men. Tell me one thing that I shall ask you. Well, sir, in what enormity is Marcius poor, in that you two have not in abundance? And he says, what faults does Caius Marcius or Coriolanus have so much of, but you guys don't have the same flaw, the same weakness, or the same vice? And Brutus says he's poor in no one fault, but stored with all, meaning that he has many flaws. It's hard for them to just focus on one. And Sicinius says, especially in pride. Pride, the arrogance, the condescension which is ongoing towards the plebs, and topping all others in boasting, meaning he is surpassing. Nobody can boast and brag as much as Coriolanus can. And it seems here as if Menenius is taunting them in a sense. And this just serves to remind us as audience that what he is doing is just reminding them of the class struggle that is going to be renewed. And so we turn the page, and Menenius says, "This is strange indeed. Do you know how you are censured in the city? How are you judged? How are you perceived? I mean, of us of the right-hand file. How do us pets, the top echelons of society, how do we view you?" And both say, why, how are we perceived? They do want to know. Because you talk of pride now, will you not be angry? In other words, you may not like what I'm going to tell you. Well, sir, well. Why, 'tis no great matter, for a very little fever of occasion will rob you of a great deal of patience. And so the first thing that Menenius is saying is that for the smallest reason they become very impatient, and clearly, as a politician, that's not a good quality. And then he says, give your disposition the reins and be angry at your pleasures. At the least, if you take it as a pleasure to you in being so, you blame Marcius for being proud. So he says, while you are pointing fingers at Caius Marcius, what about yourself? Now, what are reins? Reins are used on the horse. The bit goes in the mouth. The reins, when you rein something, you are controlling it. You are not allowing it freedom. And so he says, give your character reins. Okay? Don't allow yourself to be so impatient. And Brutus says, we do it not alone, sir. Saying that other people also have a problem with Coriolanus, with Caius Marcius, for his pride. Okay, now we can make a good argument that Caius Marcius is fully justified in his pride, because his pride is based in something substantial, and that is his accomplishments. And Menenius says, I know you can do very little alone, for your helps are many, or else your actions would grow wondrous single. So he says, I know that you have the support of the people. Okay, your abilities are too infant-like for doing much alone. You talk of pride, oh, that you could turn your eyes towards the nape of your necks and make but an interior survey. And he says, I wish that you could do real introspection and see what your shortcomings are. I wish that you could see yourself the way others, meaning the Pats, can see you. Oh, that you could. What then, sir? Why then you should discover a brace of unmeriting, proud, violent, testy magistrates, alias fools, as any in Rome. And Menenius is definitely not holding back any punches here. He's just letting them having it, that there is clearly no Pats who see them in a good light. Menenius, you are well known enough too. You are also notorious. So now it becomes a blaming game. He's accusing them, and now they are accusing him. I am known to be a humorous patrician, and one that loves a cup of hot wine with not a drop of laying Tiber in it. And so the Tiber is, of course, the main river that flows through Rome. And he says, I'm known for enjoying my wine, and I don't dilute it. There's no chaser for me. I drink it neat. Said to be something imperfect in favoring the first complaint, hasty and tinder-like upon too trivial motion. Meaning, he says, he knows that he is considered to be very short-tempered. Something can trigger him off like that, despite the fact that he seems to be someone who enjoys drinking and seems to be very easygoing. What I utter and spend my malice in my breath. In other words, what he thinks of and what upsets him, he just lets it out. He doesn't hold back at all. And what he carries on saying here is that Menenius refers to the efficient way he handles cases, as opposed to the very long-winded way that the tribunes have of getting to the bottom of something. And what I think I utter and spend my malice in my breath, meeting two such wheelsomes as you are, I cannot call you Lycurguses. If the drink you gave me touch my palate adversely, I make a crooked face at it. And so what he's saying here is that these wise legislators are not so wise as they think they are. And what's important here is he says, if I don't like something, I'm going to show it, and it's going to be visible all over my face. And he says, I cannot say your worships have delivered the matter well. And he's being on the surface, he's being quite respectful to them when he calls them your worships, because remember, these are not people of his class, of his stature, of his standing. When I find the ass in compound with the major parts of your syllables, so a large element of what they are saying is actually quite foolish. And though I must be content to bear with those that say you are reverend grave men, yet they lie deadly that tell you you have good faces. And so he says, don't allow yourselves to be deceived by people around you, because ultimately you are just plebs. You may have a little position, but really you are nobody. You are still nobody, okay? If you see this in the map of my microcosm, follows it that I am known well enough too. What harm can your Bisson conspicuities glean out of this character if I be well known enough to? And so what Menenius is doing here, he's just happily making up words as he goes along, and so he is blinding them in a matter of speaking with his education and with his knowledge, even though it's quite made up words. And Brutus says, come, sir, come, we know you well enough. You know neither me, yourselves, nor anything. You are ambitious for poor knaves' caps and legs. And I love that turn of phrase, because Menenius is saying that you are ambitious. What you want, what you really after, is that outward show of respect. You want the boys to be bowing and removing their caps and giving you that outward manifestation of respect. And he says in the rest of that paragraph that so often could have been far more profitable if you weren't so long-winded in what you are doing, because they were also functioning as lower level magistrates, and so you didn't need to take so much time just to hear a very simple case for that matter. And then Brutus says, come, you are well understood to be a perfected gibber for the table than a necessary bencher in the capital. And so what he's saying here is that you are more successful and more known at entertaining, meaning a perfect gibber for the table, at entertaining at parties than running national affairs of the state. And so Menenius too has a not so great reputation, but what saves Menenius, of course, is the fact that he is a patrician when all is said and done. Menenius then says, our very priests become mockers if they shall encounter such ridiculous topics and creatures as you are. When you speak best unto the purpose, it is not worth the wagging of your beards, and your beards deserve not so honourable a grave as to stuff a butcher cushion or to be entombed in an ass pack saddle. And so what he's doing here is he is just using a lot of metaphoric language when he is describing these two plebs who are the tribunes, and he's simply telling them that you are not good at your job at all. So when we get to line 90 on page 38, he then ends the conversation and he leaves them just the way he found them. And then we have the women arriving on the scene, and Brutus and Sicinius stand back so that Volumnia and Virginia and Valeria, I don't know what's going on with all the V's in the name, when they come in. And it's very interesting to note the way that Menenius' speech changes when these upper class women arrive. Straight away he becomes very polite, he is very courtly, and he just acknowledges them as women of his class. And he starts off by saying, how now, my fair as noble ladies, and the moon, were she earthly no nobler? Meaning that you ladies are far more beautiful than the moon. Whither do you follow your eyes so fast? Why are you, traveling so fast? And Volumnia says, Honorable Menenius, my boy Marcius approaches. For the love of God, let's go. And so they are moving really fast because they are very eager to be there the moment that Caius Marcius, now Coriolanus, arrives. Marcius coming home? Yes, worthy Menenius, with most prosperous approbation. In other words, it's confirmed that he has been successful. Take my cap, Jupiter, I thank you. And so he throws his cap because he's also celebrating. Nay, it is true. Look, here's a letter from him. The state hath another, his wife another, and I think there's one at home for you. I will make my very house reel tonight. He's going to celebrate the return of Caius Marcius. Yes, certainly, there's a letter for you. I saw it. A letter for me. It gives me an estate of 7 years' health, in which time I will make a lip of the physician. And he says the fact that Caius Marcius is coming home, the fact that there's a letter, it's going to add 7 years to his life, and he's actually going to be making a mockery of the doctor who was telling him that he was in a decline. And in fact, he compares his doctorate with a Greek physician, Galen. The most sovereign prescription in Galen is but empireutic, and to this preservative of no better report than horse drench. And so Menenius is in a good mood, and he's just happily making up words as he is going along here, and all he says is that the doctor's reports are quite false, and then back to finding out more information about Coriolanus. Is he not wounded? He was wont to come home wounded. He's always coming home wounded. Oh, no. Oh, the wife says no because she doesn't want to deal with blood and gore. She is your stereotypical woman. And then Volumnia, oh, he is wounded. I thank the gods for it. And it sounds really strange that a mother can rejoice in the fact that her son is wounded. She actually thanks the gods that her son is wounded, because for her, to her, we know that those are not just a good thing, but it's a mark. It's almost like a medal. It's like an honor, every single scar or wound that he has. So then Menenius says, so do I too. If it be not too much, brings a victory in his pocket, the wounds becomes him. And so he says, as long as he's coming home and he has been successful, then the wounds are a good thing. Volumnia says, on's brows, Menenius. He comes the third time home with oaken garland. And of course, the garland was made of oak leaves, and the garland is a sign of victory. So Coriolanus has once again been successful in battle. Menenius says, has he disciplined Aufidius soundly? Has he whipped him? Has he beaten him? Has he put him in his place? Because Aufidius is, of course, the ultimate enemy. Titus Lartius writes, they fought together, but Aufidius got off. And got off means that he has survived. And 'twas time for him to, I'll warrant him that if he had stayed by him, I would not have been so seduced for all the chests in Coriolis and the gold that's in him. And what he's saying, that if he had stayed, he would have managed to have defeated him. And then Menenius is quick to know, has the Senate been informed of Caius Marcius, now Coriolanus's success? And Volumnia, the mother, good ladies, let's go. Yes, the Senate has letters from the general wherein he gives my son the whole name of the war. And so the mother is very excited that her son is going to be the one who is honored with changing the outcome of not just the battle, but the war. He hath in this action outdone his former deeds doubly, twice over. And Valeria says, in truth, there's wondrous things of him. So all the women are totally taken in by him, except of course the wife, who doesn't like the bloodshed at all. Wondrous, yes, I guarantee you, I warrant you, I promise you, and notwithstanding his true purchasing, his true achievements, the gods grant that they are all true. True power, meaning of course it's true. Of course all these reports of my son is true. True, I'll be sworn they are true. Where is he wounded? And then he speaks to the two tribunes and says, God save your good worships. Marcius is coming home. He has more cause to be proud. Where is he wounded? He's actually saying to Sicinius and Brutus, now this man has reason to be proud because he has done so well. And of course, I think we could say he's actually taunting them a little bit by just rubbing in the fact that Caius Marcius has done so well. And then Volumnius says, in the shoulder and in the left arm, there will be large cicatrices to show the people when he shall stand for his place. And so that is simply referring to when the wound heals, the skin puckers, and so it forms a thick, ugly scar because they obviously haven't taken the time to stitch his wounds neatly. And so this is the first mention of the mother wanting a political position for Caius Marcius. And so she says when he comes home, he's going to come home scarred, and those scars... Yes, Alex?
Where's the master key?
Just look, Alex.
Okay. All right.
No! He received in the repulse of Tarquin 7 hurts in the body. Now, Tarquin is, or should I say, was the last king of Rome. And when Coriolanus was very young, in fact, he was about 16, he played a very pivotal role in the expulsion of King Tarquin as king from the state of Rome. And so that was a very prestigious achievement for someone so young. And that's where he got these 7 scars. Menenius says 1 in the neck and 2 in the thigh. There's 9 that I know. So what are they doing? They are literally making a list of all his injuries. And like I said, these are like badges of honor. He had before this last expedition 25 wounds upon him. Now it's 27. Every gash was an enemy's grave. And then they hear the sound of the trumpets. These are the ushers of Marcius. And this, people, is a beautiful quotation that you need to be familiar with. Before him, he carries noise, and behind him, he leaves tears. Before him, he carries noise, meaning that people are always cheering for him. They are excited because they know the people. But before him, meaning the Romans, but behind him, he leaves tears. It's the enemy that he has crushed. The people who are surviving, the survivors are the ones who are crying for the death and the destruction that Caius Marcius has caused. And so that's a beautiful quotation which encapsulates the character, at least on the battlefield, of Caius Marcius. Before him, he carries noise, and behind him, he leaves tears. Death, that's the dark spirit, is a nervy arm doth lie, which being advanced declines, and then men die. And so the nervy arm is talking about a very muscular sinew arm. There's no fat on the arm, and which being advanced decline. So meaning when the arm is raised, when that muscular arm is raised, then men die. And so again, just to touch on Volumnia, she has Coriolanus's career already planned, and she sees his scars as making him eligible, as qualifying him for the position of consul. So then we have the Senate, and that here we just have the little trumpet again, and now comes Communus, who's the head commander of the army, the general, and Titus, who actually doesn't speak, but he is there. And between them we have Coriolanus, and he's got all his garlands on. And the herald says, "Know, Rome, that all alone Marcius did fight within Coriolis' gates, where he hath won with fame a name in addition to Caius Marcius. These in honor follows Coriolanus." And so this is a real mark and badge of honor that is given to him. "Welcome to Rome, renowned Coriolanus," Caius Marcius Coriolanus. And everyone says, "Welcome to Rome, renowned Coriolanus." No more of this. It does offend my heart. Pray now, no more. So he is not someone who wants the adulation of people. "Look, sir, your mother." And it's so interesting that the head of the army doesn't say, "Sir, your wife." He first acknowledges the mother, almost as if everyone knows what kind of person Volumnia is, you see. And he says, "I have, petitioned all the gods for my prosperity." And he kneels in front of his mother. Wow, this is such a big moment here, because this emphasizes the proper relationship between the mother and son. Despite being this big shot on the battlefield, he's able to humble himself and be respectful to his mother. And so in Elizabethan culture, it was, of course, appropriate that a son kneels when he is receiving his blessing from his mother. And she says, "My gentle Marcius, worthy Caius, and by deed achieving honor newly named." What is it? "Coriolanus must I call thee." "Oh, but thy wife." And she just has that moment where she has her son to herself. And then Coriolanus says, "My gracious silence." Now he turns, and now he refers to his wife, who's been waiting in the wings. I think she knows her place. She knows that she's always going to be second to the mother. And we know that the mother's personality is far more dominant than Virgilia, who is your stereotypical soft, gentle, kind, emotional woman. "Wouldst thou have laughed had I come coffined home, that weepest to see me triumph?" In other words, he's saying, why are you crying? Would you prefer that I had come home in a coffin? "Ah, my dear, such eyes the widows in Coriolis wear, and mothers that lack sons." And there he can't resist bragging a little bit. He says, "Why are you crying? The women who are crying are the ones whose sons I killed. The women whose husbands I killed, the widows, they are the ones who are crying. You should not be crying, because here I am." And Menenius says, "Now the gods crown thee, and live you yet?" He now turns to the mother's friend, Valeria. "Oh my goodness, you still around? Oh, my sweet lady, pardon. I know not where to turn. Oh, welcome home, and welcome, general, and you are welcome all." And I think for Volumnia, she is on cloud 9 here, in a manner of speaking, just to have her son back. 100,000 welcomes I could weep and I could laugh. I am light and heavy. I'm joyful, I'm sad. Welcome. A curse begin at the very root on his heart, that is not glad to see thee. And so he says, anyone who's not happy to have you back, I curse that person. Yet, by the faith of men, we have some old crab trees here at home that will not be grafted to your relish, meaning that there will always be those ones who are not pleased with you. Yet, never mind. Welcome, warriors. We call a nettle but a nettle, and faults of the fools but folly. So he says, those people who are not okay, like the Sicinians and Brutus, they don't matter. They don't matter. They are fools, and they are foolish. The folly now. So they don't matter. Ever right, Menenius, ever give way and to go on. And then Coriolanus says to mother and wife, your hand and yours, here in our own house, I do shade my head. The good patricians must be visited, from whom I have received not only greetings, but with him charge of honor. So he says, before I can go home with these two important women in my life, I need to go and face the patricians, the ones in parliament. These are the men who have given me my new name, and I just need to go and acknowledge them. And then Volumnia says, I have lived to see inherited my very wishes. So she says, I have lived long enough to see that my wishes have been realized. Okay, my son has achieved this great honor and the buildings of my fancy. Only there's one thing wanting, which I doubt not, but our Rome will cast upon thee. There's one thing wanting. And so she is so driven in her ambition. She is so masculine at this point in time, in this context. She is like a man. The rewards, the honor of the name, the battle, it's not enough for her. There's still a further ambition that she once realized, and that is, of course, she wants the consulship for her son. And we have spoken about this. She's living vicariously. She's living her life over through her son. And it's actually Volumnia that wants the consulship, but a woman can't get it, and so she badly wants it for her son. Which I doubt not, but our Rome will cast upon thee. So she's confident that he will get it, because he ticks all the blocks. He has met all the criteria. No, good mother, I had rather be their servant in my way than sway with them in theirs. And this is probably a very good quotation as well, grade 11, because he's saying here, there's my way and there's their way. My way is where he has his strengths on the battlefield. That is how he can serve Rome, rather than theirs. And theirs is what? It's the actual rulership. It's the political arena. And I think this is the first time when he tells his mother, I don't really want to become a politician. I'm not interested in that.